Good evening, and thank you for coming this evening.
Buonasera, grazie per essere intervenuti.
Before we begin, let me introduce my friends who will be on the stage with me tonight. Fabio Cubisino, Sefton Graham. Ian Morrison. Like me, they have come from a long distance to bring Jim Morrison's poetry to Genoa.
Come me sono venuti da molto lontano per portare la poesia di Jim Morrison a Genova. Vorremmo ringraziare Claudio Pozzani e la Stanza della Poesia per il gentile invito. Grazie anche allo staff del festival che ha reso il nostro soggiorno a Genova confortevole e divertente.
I want to say a few words about the reading this evening. All of the pieces we will read tonight are taken from the manuscript, The Collected Writings of Jim Morrison. This is a new book. This book is projected to be published in 2018, we hope. Please send positive vibrations for this to happen. Much of Jim's poetry is abstract and full of similes and references. Metaphors abound. Many of the pieces, possibly most, are autobiographical. As the editor of Jim's poems, I have read these many, many times. And each time I find something new. And often I discover something completely surprising.
Personalmente ho letto queste poesie tante volte e ogni singola volta vi ritrovo qualcosa di nuovo e spesso riscopro qualche aspetto sorprendente.
We hope you enjoy our reading tonight. In the days of sailing ships, when the winds would stop, cargo, even live cargo, was sacrificed to gain movement. Jim wrote this short poem when he was 14 years old. It's called Horse Latitudes. When the still sea conspires in armor, and her sullen and aborted currents breed tiny monsters, true sailing is dead, awkward instant, and the first animal is jettisoned, legs furiously pumping their stiff green gallop, and heads bob up, poise, delicate, pause, consent, in mute nostril agony, carefully refined and sealed over. Throughout his writing life, Jim Morrison looked to his teenage years for scenes, experiences, and inspirations. Like this poem. Hey man, you want girls, pills, grass? Come on, I'll show you a good time. This place has everything. Come on, I'll show you.
Can we resolve the past, lurking jaws, joints of time, the base, to come of age in a dry place, holes and caves? The music was new, black polished chrome, and came over the summer like liquid night. The DJs took pills to stay awake and play for 7 days. The general's son had a sister. They went down to see him. They went to the studio, and someone knew him. Someone knew the TV showman. He came to our homeroom party and played records, and when he left, in the hot noon sun and walked to his car, we saw that Chooks had written F-U-C-K on his windshield. He wiped it off with a white rag and smiling coolly drove away. He's rich, got a big car.
My friend drove an hour each day from the mountains. The bus gives you a hard-on with books in your lap. We shot the bird at the Black MP. My gang will get you. Scenes of rape in the Arroyo, seductions in cars, abandoned buildings, fights at the food stand, the dust, the shoes, open shirts and raised collars, bright sculptured hair, spades dance best from the hip. Someone shot the bird on the afternoon dance show. They gave out free records to the best couple.
Always a playground instructor, never a killer. Always a bridesmaid on the verge of fame or over. He maneuvered 2 girls into his hotel room. One, a friend, the other, the young one, a newer stranger, vaguely Mexican or Puerto Rican. Poor boy's thighs and buttocks scarred by a father's belt. She's trying to rise. Story of her boyfriend in teenage stone death games. Handsome cat dead in a car. Come here, I love you. Peace on earth. Will you die for me? Eat me. This way. The end. I'm surprised you could get it up. He whips her lightly, sardonically with the belt. Haven't I been through enough, she asks.
The dark girl begins to bleed. It's Catholic heaven. I have an ancient Indian crucifix around my neck. My chest is hard and brown. Lying on stained and wretched sheets with a bleeding virgin, we could plan a murder or start a religion.
At university, Jim studied cinema and visual perception, and he wrote about both of them. His interest in the workings of the human eye and in alchemy inspired many entries in his journals and notebooks. These are a couple of selections. The eyes are the genitals of perception, and they too have established a tyranny. They have usurped the authority of the other senses. The body becomes a thin, awkward stalk to support the eyes on its rounds. Why should the eyes be called the windows of the soul and key to the deepest human communication, and touch denied as mild collisions of flesh? Ask anyone what sense he would preserve above all others. Most would say sight, forfeiting 1,000,000 eyes in the body for 2 in the skull. Blind, we could live and possibly discover wisdom. Without touch, we would turn into hunks of wood. Many of Jim's poems, perhaps most, are autobiographical. He used his own experiences as symbols and metaphor to explore life's mysteries.
It was the greatest night of my life. Although I still had not found a wife, I had my friends right there beside me. We were close together. Indians scattered on dawn's highway bleeding. Ghosts crowd the young child's fragile eggshell mind. We scaled the wall, we tripped through the graveyard. Ancient shapes were all around us. No music, but the wet grass felt fresh beside the fog. 2 made love in a silent spot. 1 chased a rabbit into the dark. A girl got drunk and bawled the dead, and I gave empty sermons to my head. Cemetery cool and quiet. Hate to leave your sacred lay, dread the milky coming of the day. I'd love to stay, I'd love to stay, I'd love to stay. Indian, Indian, what did you die for? Indian says nothing at all.
Jim imagined his own moment of birth and first awareness.
In that year, we had an intense visitation of energy, far ardent signals calling them home. When radio dark night existed and assumed control, and we rocked in its web, consumed by static and stroked with fear, we were drawn down long from deep sleep and awakened at dayfall by worried gardeners, and made to be led through dew-wet jungle to the swift summit overlooking the sea. A vast radiant beach and a cool jeweled moon. Couples, naked, raced down by its quiet side, and we laughed like soft, mad children, smug in the woolly cotton brains of infancy. The music and voices are all around us. Choose, they croon, the ancient ones. The time has come again. Choose now, they croon, beneath the moon, beside an ancient lake. Enter again the sweet forest, enter the hot dream, come with us. Everything is broken up and dances.
This is another poem from Jim's teenage years. It has humor, it has tragedy, and wild scenes. It's called The Anatomy of Rock. The Anatomy of Rock, the whole thing started with rock and roll. Now it's out of control. The first electric wildness came over the people on Sweet Friday. Sweat was in the air. The channel beamed token of power. Incest brewed darkly. Who could tell then that here it would end? One school bus crashed with a train. That was at the crossroads, mercury strained. I couldn't get out of my seat. The road was littered with dead jitterbugs. Help! We'll be late for class. The secret flurry of rumor marched over the yard and pinned us unwittingly. Mountain fever. A girl stripped naked on the base of the flagpole. In the restrooms, all was cool and silent with the salt green of latrines. Blankets were needed. Ropes fluttered. Smiles flattered and haunted. Lockers were pried open and secrets discovered. Oh, sweet music. Wild sounds in the night. Angels' siren voices. The baying of great hounds. Cars screamed through gears and shrieks on the wild road, where the tires skid and slide into dangerous curves. Favorite corners, cheerleaders raped in summer buildings and holding hands and bopping towards Sunday. Those lean, sweet, desperate hours. Time searched the hallways for a mind. Hands kept time. The climate altered like a visible dance. Nighttime women, wondrous sacraments of doubt, sprang sullen in bursts of fear and guilt in the womb's pit hole below the belt of the beast. Was this next poem inspired by the war in Vietnam? We're not sure, but Jim recorded it on his 27th birthday, his last birthday on Earth. It's called Letter from a Soldier's Wife.
All hail the American night, and so I say to you, the silk handkerchief was embroidered in China or Japan behind the steel curtain, and now one can cross the borderline without proper credentials. This is to say that we are all sensate and occasionally sad, and if every partner in crime were to incorporate promises in his program, the land might end and all our friends would follow another program. Who are our friends? Are they sullen and slow? Do they have great desire, or Are they one of the multitude who walk doubting their impossible regret? Certain things happen and reoccur in continuous promise. All of us have found a safe niche where we can store up our riches and talk to our fellows on the same premise of disaster. But this will not do. No, this will never do. There are continents and shores which beseech our understanding. Seldom have we been so slow. Seldom have we been so far. My only wish is to see far Arden again.
The truth is on his chest. The cellular excitement has totally inspired our magic veteran. And now for an old trip. I'm tired of the night. I want the old forms to reassert their sexual cool. My friend is just, you know. And this morning, before I sign off, I would like to tell you about Texas radio and the big beat. It moves into the perimeter of your sacred, sincere, and dedicated smile like a calm veteran of the psychic war. He was no general, for he was not old. He was no private, for he could not be told. He was only a man, and his dedication extended to the last degree. Poor pretentious soldier, come home. The dark Los Angeles evening is steaming the church that we attended, and I miss my boy. Stupid and green. What, the color green? When I watch the TV and I see brutal and bountiful sensation helicopters swirling over fields and cosmic walls, I can only smile and fix a meal and think about the child who will one day own you.
In conclusion, darling, let me repeat. Your home is still here, inviolate and certain, and I open the wide smile of my remembrance of your lunging thighs. This to you on the anniversary of our first night. I know you love me to talk this way. I hope no one sees this message written in the calm, lonely, far-out languid afternoon with my total love. The following poems are taken directly from Jim's notebooks, and they are put into the manuscript for the new book, which, as I said before, we hope will come out sometime next year.
In this full-throated sexed cry, we must try again to speak of the ununited, miles of sleep around us, bumbling through slumber, blind numbers. In a tiled room we sit and brood, refuse to move, the guards refuse. And in the last place, and in the last sweet breath, and in stroke of sidewise crab, and in stars of plenty, stars of greed, in the written books and majesties, in fulfillment on a cliff, on the inside of butter, on smooth backs and camels, in the open vessel, in the vein, in lives untold who witnessed everything, for those people who died for nirvana, for the heavenly creed, for you, for me. These lines are written to convey the message, to ignore the warning, to spree upward into tantalizing voices, to visit underseas, believe things more horrible than war, things out of the tale's great beasts suffering extinction.